So the next peptide we're going to talk about is Mots-c, and this is one of my very favorite peptides. Mots-c, the thing I love about this is it's a peptide that is something that's been studied for longevity, but it's also been studied for obesity, insulin resistance. It's a mitochondrial-derived peptide. So just to go back to some basic biology, the mitochondria in your cell, there's thousands of them in each cell in your body, and some cells have more than others. Like your cardiac cells are going to have like 10,000 mitochondria. Your brain cells are going to be very similar to that. Your liver cells have about 6,000 to 8,000. And then other cells may only have, 1,000 to 2,000. But Mots-c, what it does is it opens up the pathway so you get a better spark from the mitochondria in the cell. And so it's like turning on the engine. And the thing I love about Mots-c is, and all these peptides, is they're working on pathways that already exist in the body, like semaglutide, the GLP. So we have glucagon-like peptide that's already being secreted in our body. But as we age, our bodies sometimes forget how to secrete these peptides because of the epigenetic factors, our diet, our lifestyle, our stress. These things all impede the progress of our body's health. And so by using these peptides, we're just reminding your body how to function again. And Mots-c is no different. Beautiful thing about Mots-c is it helps regulate mitochondrial regulation. So what that means is the mitochondria are dying, just like your cells go through what's called autophagy. Your mitochondria go through a process called mitophagy. So when these engines get worn out, your body just discards those and a new engine comes in. And that's the beautiful thing about having stem cells, is they're there to repopulate what's being lost. And then you have peptides that help repopulate what's being lost. So this Mots-c is a gene that when it's activated, you have insulin sensitivity and then metabolic homeostasis, which means you're going to burn fat more effectively. You're going to have better sugar stability. And then Mots-c also protects against the factors of age and diet-dependent insulin resistance and obesity. The other thing that it does, and we'll talk about some of these studies, is it targets the skeletal muscle, specifically the satellite stem cells, and activates AMPK. And so these are kind of, I guess that was a little nerdy, but if we look at what AMPK is it's one of those pathways. If you remember ATP from high school biology, is like that adenosine triphosphate is that molecule that activates an energetic spark in your body. So without ATP, we die. We can't do anything. If you have lots of ATP, you're going to be able to run, sprint, jump, do everything you want to do. Your brain's going to think. But AMPK is a secondary energy source. And so when you activate AMPK, and there's plenty of Chinese herbs that do this. Some of my favorites, I talked about one of them last night, which was ginseng, is a great herb to activate AMPK, astragalus, and cordyceps. But Mots-c seems to have a very powerful effect of activating this AMPK pathway. So you have endless amounts of energy. So how many of you would love to have a little more energy, a little more pep in your step? And I think several of you have used Mots-c, and it's something that very you guys, it's been very well received. But let's jump into a little science on this. Andy and Kate, I just did a lot of talking. Thoughts on that? Anything I missed?
Yeah, I got some comments on Mots-c, which is one of my favorites. I've used Mots-c in a lot of instances. Love the energy level it provides. It's given me a lot. Just I feel like it's stable energy. Love that one. Super helpful. I feel like that I love the combo of doing that and Tesmerel and Ipamorelin. I feel like my body composition is way just works out way better.
Nice. Yeah.
Better workouts, better strength, better endurance, a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, and we're going to jump into that study. But one of the things Mots-c does is it's expressed in our bodies and specifically in our muscles And so when Mots-c is properly expressed, you're going to have higher levels of insulin sensitivity, which means you're not going to have the blood sugar spikes and drops. And this is another peptide that really can help get you through through that old conversation, as you called it, Andy. I think you said you were having 10 conversations in your mind, but but part of that is when you lose insulin sensitivity, your body's always hungry for energy, and so it's trying to convince you that you need to go eat that sugary substance.
Yeah, and something I didn't mention in response to Diane's comment was, also associated with, people not eating well and being overweight, there's a lot of mental health issues. Sorry, I just wanted to revisit that. But sorry, what Cade said on the Mots-c, was a great point when you said, Cade, something around consistent energy. So, evening out those peaks and troughs and, helping you have that stable, consistent energy you can call on throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that we hear on this. The big issue, so this comes as a lyophilized agent from one of our pharmacies. The other pharmacy, they pre-mix it. So if you get your Mots-c and you're watching this video and you're like, how do I mix it? Well, you just take the bacteriostatic water and you spray it into, and the dose will be on the label. So read that and spray the proper amount of bacteriostatic water. You're going to have plenty left over. So don't think you have to put all the water into the powder. And then it's typically a weekly injection, or if you want to break it up into multiple injections, you can do that as well. But very simple to use, but you have one extra step, which is mixing it. And yeah.
Reagan, that's also the same with the semaglutide too, is worth a mention that you're mixing in some of that bacteriostatic water.
Thank you. And make sure you're reading the label, because it's really important not to use semaglutide daily, right? So if you're doing injections, do not use it daily. That can be detrimental. And so Mots-c, here's some of the research where they looked at mice and they said, we're going to give these mice who are insulin resistant, they're kind of like diabetic, they're fed a high fat diet. And one group of mice just, they got the placebo. They stayed on the same high fat diet. The other group was fed the high fat diet plus Mots-c, and they found that that group of mice became less insulin sensitive. But then when you put that into a balanced diet, they found that the mice did actually much better. Surprise! I mean, and I know that we're not mice, but this is where a lot of the research, when they're looking at mechanisms of action, they said, well, it's really helping the methionine cycles, the folate cycle, and the purine synthesis happen so that you have better AMPK production. And so for those of us who have issues with methylation, like maybe you have the MTHFR variant, Mots-c can be very important with you because it helps trigger that methylation cycle by upregulating methionine and folate. So really important to take B vitamins with this, and even some NAD. Here's another study where they made old mice young, and this goes to Cade, where he said, just even energy, you feel just a little more spring in your step on Mots-c. But what they did is they found these older mice, these are 12-month-old mice, and they found that they were more insulin resistant than younger mice. And so what they did is they said, well, I wonder what would happen if we injected Mots-c into these mice. Would it change the expression of these mice and help them become younger? And so they injected the Mots-c for 7 days. And then what they found is the insulin resistance was actually gone for the most part. They were more like a 3-month-old mice. And then there's another study, which is interesting, is they put mice on a treadmill, and they took old mice and young mice, and they could see which ones, how far they could run. And then they did biopsies of the skeletal muscle, and they found that, obviously the old mice had less Mots-c expression compared to the younger mice. And so what they did is injected Mots-c for 7 days into these mice. And then they found that after 7 days, they had the same phenotypic expression of Mots-c as the younger mice did, and they could actually run farther on the treadmill. So pretty darn exciting when you think about some of the capabilities with Mots-c. Thoughts on that, Andy or Cade? I mean, for your mice, do you have pet mice?
I just never think of mice as being old.
I think we figured out the recipe of like everlasting mice. I don't know who would.
Yeah, that's not a good one, right?
No, I think if you look at that compared to you go off of my experience, and it makes sense. I think we're not the same genetic makeup obviously as mice, but there's some similarities, and we can definitely glean some information, and it does seem like that's pretty true in myself at least.
Yeah.
You've seen patients get fantastic results with it as well.
Yeah, this is one of the peptides that we love. I mean, there's a study where they took kids, and this is a tragedy in the United States, is the amount of kids with diabetes. They're diabetic and they're obese. And they actually found that by using Mots-c with kids, they were able to reverse a lot of these like very serious metabolic conditions.